Привет, I'm Chuck Olenek. I'm a Ukrainian American who was baptized with the name Yaroslav, which is also the name that I use in the historical reenactment group, the Society for Creative Anachronism. I grew up in a Ukrainian speaking household and so was subjected to a lot of history of my people, but that also got me interested in the mythology and the folklore. And so I've been exploring Slavic mythology and folklore in this series on my YouTube channel, which would be really nice if you subscribe to it. Various nations had epic poems and tales where rulers assumed like legendary status and they'd be commanding hosts of heroes. You would have Arthur, in England, and commanding knights of the Round Table. You would also have in France, there's the Song of Roland, based on the Frankish military leader during the reign of the Carolingian king Charlemagne. But it's really written much later, and it's more of a Crusades thing. So that's happened with a number of different legends and a number of different rulers. So what I'm here to talk about today is Volodymyr Brightsun. He's not one ruler. He's actually been kind of put together from pieces of Volodymyr I, Grand Prince of Kiev, otherwise known as Saint Volodymyr, and then his great-grandson, Volodymyr Monomakh. And between them, they end up becoming a legendary ruler, Volodymyr Brightsun. And he does not sit in a court at a round table with knights. He rules in Kiev instead of Camelot. And those who serve him, those legendary heroes, they're not knights of the round table, they're Bogatyri. Not everyone who was with the prince was a bogatyr. There was the bodyguard, or retinue, his gang of friends. They were called the druzhina, and the druzhina was divided into senior members, the ognishchani, and that's from Ogun or fire. Those were the ones who shared the prince's fire. And then there's the junior members, the detsi, and they're the ones whose normal place is in the Tinets or the keep, and they're kind of the younger crowd. All right. A bogatyr is very different. The bogatyri were grist for the mill of the minstrels of Rus and later Russia. The highest ranking were the guzlari, the court poets and bards. Okay. Below them were the skomoroki, Ukrainians would call them kobzari, and they were the itinerant minstrels, and they were descended from pagan priests who were still permitted a lot of privileges. They were the storytellers, and they were known for their flamboyant dress, so I guess you get into that jester territory there. And vagabonds of every sort, masters of, the tale to tell in strung out settlements, and often these tales are ending with, "It was at the feast I heard this tale, there it was I drank mead ale, though it flowed down my beard, my mouth stayed dry, for never a drop passed my lips, swear I." Basically, that was supposed to be the end of the story and kind of tell you, okay, you're about to leave, start sobering up. Not everyone was a fan of the Belini being told by the Guzliari and the Kobzari. In a royal edict in 1649, Tsar Alexei Mikhailovich proclaimed, "Many persons stupidly believe in dreams, in the evil eye, and in birdsong, and they propound riddles and tell fairy stories. By idle talk and merrymaking and blasphemy they destroy their souls." Tsar Alexei had them rounded up and their tongues cut out. In spite of this, the tales survived, and it is from here we learn of the bogatyr. A bogatyr, he's a folk or epic hero. Pretty much he's a stock character in medieval Slavic legends, and he's a lot like a Western European knight errant. He goes about doing his heroic things, right? And he often appears in the Rus Beline. These are epic songs that are dedicated to famous historical and pseudo-historical events. And so that means the people in them are not exact depictions. They might be an amalgamation of certain individuals turned into a character, kind of like the two Volodymyrs become Volodymyr Brightsun. And these are heroes who are characterized with resounding voices. They've got patriotic and religious pursuits. They're defending Rus from foreign enemies, especially the Turkic ones that are showing up. That kind of gets into the Mongol thing, all right? And they're defending their religion. And this kind of echoes some of the stuff that you'll see in Arthurian stories, as far as here's the Dark Age origins, and then you get into crusade stuff and courtly love and that sort of thing. The word Bogatyr isn't a Slavic word, as far as not originally. It was borrowed from the Turkic, Mongolic languages for, Bogatyr, which means hero or warrior. And the Rus already had words for outstanding warriors. Harabir is brave one. Vitiaz is warrior. Molodets, that's a young one. And all of these were words that were used for someone who was really outstanding on the battlefield. But for some reason, the Rus felt that they needed to borrow a word. And I think part of the reasoning is, these are your best guys, the Bogatyri? Well, we have Bogatyri too. And our guys are just as good as your guys, if not better. And that would make sense in a way. There are several hundred of these Bellini or Bellinas that are known to historians that feature the Bogatyri. And they're usually divided into several categories, and one of them is like the mythological epics, and these involve older stories that probably are, from before Kievan Rus was founded and Christianity was brought in, so they're coming in from pagan times. There's a lot of magic involved here, and the characters kind of reflect that. So the most prominent heroes are the giant Sviatogor, who's as big as a mountain, and the earth can barely support his weight. Then there's Volk Vesliavovich, whose dad was a serpent, and he was a shapeshifter and could do all these, great magical things, becoming a wolf or a golden horned ox or any manner of creature to confound his enemies. Then there's Mikula the plowman, and these are considered the elder Bogatyri, and they will maybe make appearances in stories concerning Volodymyr Brightsun, but they usually tend to, go away fairly early. Okay, the vast majority of the stories about the Bogatyri, they revolve around the court of Volodymyr Brightsun, and they're called the Kievan cycle. And they have, the biggest numbers of the Bogatyri are there, and the biggest number of stories. The most notable of the Bogatyri that are part of Volodymyr Brightsun's court are the trio of Alyosha Popovich, Dobrina Nikitich, and Ilya Muromets. And each of them is known for their certain characteristics or certain traits. Alyosha Popovich, he's got wits. And he's kind of the trickster of the group, so you kind of get into Loki territory there. Dobrina Nikitich, he's known for his courage and also his diplomatic skills. Ilya Muromets, he's got the super strength, and he's also known for his spiritual power and his integrity, and his dedication to protecting his homeland and his people. And most of the Bogatyri are fictional, but some do end up getting based on historical figures. Like Dobryna is possibly based upon an uncle of uh, Volodymyr the First. All right, and he served as a warlord to Volodymyr the First. And Ilya may have been based upon a monk who was a really big, strong guy. All right, now the next phase is in the northern city of Novgorod. This has got a different set of heroes, a different type of heroes, because Kiev got subjected to a lot of bad stuff from invading, Mongols. All right. So the people in that area needed a certain kind of hero. Novgorod was far enough away. The Mongols didn't really have much of an impact there. So that means you're going to end up with a different kind of hero to deal with different sorts of problems. So probably like one of the most famous is Sadko the merchant, or he's a musician that's turned into a merchant, and he's got really good connections with the Tsar of the Sea. So we're kind of pushing a merchant angle there. And there was another named Vasily Buslev, who was a powerful street fighter. Okay. So there's different sorts of deeds that are performed here. And later on, historians start to explain why various historic figures end up as Bogatyri. There are some who served with Alexander Nevsky in some of his great battles. Others served in fighting the Tartars at Kulikovo. The way I wrap my brain around a lot of these stories of the Bogatyri is I view them like comic book characters, because there are the individual stories of these various heroes who have these various traits, like Svyatogor, who is super strong. But then so is Ilya Muromets, who is always described as ranking just below Svyatogor in strength. Then there's Dobryna Nikitich, who is the strategist of the group, who's got the brains. So I kind of see a Captain America there. Like with Svyatogor, I'd see more like a Hulk. And then there's Alyosha Popovich, who is the trickster of the group, who's really keen-witted. And then you have the individual adventures, and then you have the group adventures going on, just like with the comics. And this isn't a boys-only club. This is also where women are involved in the tales, and they're not simply the stock, characters, the cardboard cutouts that you drag on stage in order to be rescued. I'm a delicate feminine flower. These ladies are just as tough as the men. They are known as the, Bogatyrki. Okay, so derivative word of Bogatyr, or Polyaniцы. These are the Amazons of the Slavic tales. And, like Wonder Woman, you get some tales, that are kind of reminiscent of a garden filled with apples of youth that are defended by a nameless druzhina of women warriors. Then there's other women, other of the Polyaniцы, who are not nameless, like Nastasia Nikolichna, who ends up marrying Dobryna Nikitich. She is just as tough as he is, just as skilled with weapons, just as keen-witted. And there's a number of other women who are also in this category. So I'm going to be talking about these various folks and these various folktale characters, and I'm going to be doing that in the next video. But I want to kind of spin these tales out like the Kobzari and the Guzliari, except I'm not playing an instrument. I'm just going to do what I do, which is talk. So it was at the feast I heard this tale. There it was, I drank mead ale, though it flowed down my beard. My mouth stayed dry, for never a drop passed my lips, swear I. I hope you stick with me.